DreAllDay.com.
Your mind makes the agreement, your flesh gets zero. Yes, you heard me, 0 votes. That's the topic here today. Now, this episode is about a combination of 3 things, actually 4 things. Discipline, number 1, determination, number 2, willpower, number 3, and the 4th thing is that you make decisions about what's going to happen in your life. You make those decisions with your thinking, that thing up there in between your ears, whether you want to call it the mind, the brain, the self, whatever, that thing up there. And it is ever the dutiful servant, which means it will do whatever you say it's going to do if you give it direct and clear orders. That if is very important. Let me say it again. It will do whatever you tell it to do if you give it direct and clear orders. It is simply there to follow through on what you tell it to do. Challenge for a lot of you is that you don't tell it what to do, or you give it very vague instructions, or you offer it maybes and possiblies and coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and the subconscious mind does not respond to vague, weak demands. You may also notice that in life, humans often don't respond to vague and weak demands. That when you are very clear and very direct on exactly what you want and you say it with your chest, meaning as if you actually mean it to yourself and to others, you may find you get a lot more compliance than when you say things halfway or you're not really clear on what you're saying. Understand that the mind does not respond to maybes. The human mind, and usually other humans, they respond to absolutes. And many of you have made the mistake of giving yourself maybes and then wondering why you're not following through or succeeding with the maybes, when what you actually need to be doing is giving yourself absolutes that have no other possible ways of being implemented, that they actually just get implemented, period. All right, so the topic again here today is your mind makes the agreement that this is what's going to happen. Your mind says this is what's going to happen, and it agrees with the universe that this is what we're going to do. That's the agreement right there. Your flesh has no votes in this conversation, not even in the room when this agreement is taking place, these negotiations. Your flesh, gets no votes. So basically, your mind comes out of the negotiating room where it spoke with the universe. Then it tells your flesh, here's what we agreed to, and this is what's going to happen. And your flesh has no choice but to follow through on what instructions you give it. What we're going to talk about here today is making sure that your instructions are clear and that you really believe in the instructions that you're giving, because this is the only thing in the way of you doing the shit that you say you want to do if you're not doing it. Point number 1. Topic once again today. Your mind makes the agreement, your flesh gets no votes. Number 1, how many ideas, visions, and ruminations have you had in your mind about things that you want to do in your life or things that you want in your life, yet you have never brought to life? How many things do you have in your head that fit that description? You said you want to do it. You are thinking about doing it. Every time you remember you were supposed to have done it, you say, damn, I'm supposed to do that, but you haven't actually done it yet. Now, I'm sure you have many. Now, here's my question. Why does this happen? Why is this the case? This happens because, and humans have plenty of these, we don't force our flesh, that means our physical selves, we don't force ourselves to follow through on what our mind has decided, which means you didn't really decide. Understanding the decision is followed immediately by action. It's not a true decision if you don't take action aligning with that decision. If you say you made a decision and you do nothing, you didn't make a decision. What you did was make a suggestion. What you did was have a thought. What you did was have a wish, a hope, a dream, whatever you want to call it, but it's not a decision. A decision means you have cut off every other possibility, which means you do something that demonstrates that all those other possibilities are cut off. That's what a decision means. So this is a reflection. Whenever you think of things that you say you want to do, but you don't actually do them, or you call them a decision, but you're lying because you didn't actually make a decision, this is a reflection of a break in your mental chain of command. Any of you who's ever worked in a hierarchical organization, corporate America is one, the military is another, the police force is another, and there are many other places. Any of you ever worked in a hierarchical bureaucratic organization, you understand chain of command. You know what that means, right? That means if you're a level 2 person and you need to get something up to a level 5 person, you can't go straight to the level 5 person's office and knock on their door. What you need to do is go through the person at level 3, they take it, go to the person at level 4, they take it and go to the person at level 5. If you break the chain and go from your level 2 position and go talk to the level 5 position, and the people at level 3 and level 4 find out that you did that, it's going to be your ass on the line because you broke the chain of command and went over their heads. You're not supposed to do that. And if you do that, you better damn well know what the hell you're doing. And if you've ever worked in that kind of organization, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So when your mind, understand, let me back up. Your mind has a chain of command the same way. Chain of command in your mind works the exact same way. Your mind decides what happens. This is from the top down. Your mind is at the top. It decides what's going to happen. Your body is at a level below your mind, which means your mind tells your body what to do, and that's that. That's a direct order. Remember, I was watching this TV show called The Wire. I've never worked in the military or in the police force, but I remember it was a scene in The Wire. It was a TV show, and in one season of the show was about the police force. So there was a shooting that happened. A cop had gotten shot, and there's all these cops on the scene trying to figure out what's going on. And there was a whole lot of chaos happening. And the sergeant in command, and the sergeant was kind of the highest ranking person on the scene, but it was all these cops milling about. He saw all the chaos happening and it seemed like they didn't have the situation under control. So the sergeant stood up and said, any officer here who is not directly working on this case, get the hell off the scene. And everybody kind of stood around and everybody was kind of looking at him for a second. Nobody moved, but everybody was just stopping and looking at him. And then the sergeant said again at a louder voice, he said, is there anybody here who does not understand a direct order? And after he said that, all the cops who he was referring to who weren't working on the case, they got the hell out the way and cleared the scene. What's the point? The point is he was the highest ranking person there, which meant whatever he said went. And many of you need to get yourself in this type of alignment mentally and understand this is the way that your life needs to work. Your mind is the person in charge. Your mind is the chief of police, so to speak, or the mayor, I guess, whoever's the highest ranking person in the police force, that person. They tell everybody else what to do, and you give direct orders. What did I say in the introduction to this episode? That your flesh and your mind respond to absolutes, and they respond to direct orders, direct, clear directives, telling it exactly what to do. You know what a directive means? A directive means I'm telling you what to do. I'm not asking you. I'm not suggesting. I'm not just throwing something out there. I'm not just saying these soft terms that a lot of people use. See, these things do not lead to action, folks. It's not that you're necessarily wrong or a bad person if you tend to use these. And I know a lot of you use them because I hear it so often. That's the reason why I'm using them as examples, because I know I'm using your language on you right now. I'm using these to let you know that your mind responds to directives. You have to direct your mind. You know what it means to direct something? It means you tell people what the fuck to do. You don't ask them, you don't suggest, you don't throw things out there and let them make a choice. You tell them, this is what's happening. No, not that, this. No, not that way, this way. No, not in 15 minutes, now. Remember I was watching The Sopranos, the TV show. You remember The Sopranos with this guy, Tony Soprano, who ran a mob. So there was a time period in the show where Tony had broken up from his wife, Carmela. And Tony and Carmela had 2 kids. And Tony's son was named Anthony Jr. So for a short period of time, Anthony Jr. was kind of acting up around his mom because the mom and dad had broken up. So Tony, the dad, he went and got his own little apartment and he was living by himself. But his son decided, hey, I want to go live with dad because he wasn't getting along with mom. So he goes and lives with dad for a little while. And one particular night, Tony's at his house watching TV and he has one of his mob friends over there at the house with him because Tony was in the mob or the mafia. I don't know the difference, whatever. One of his mafia friends with him at the house watching TV. And his son, Anthony Jr., was still a kid. He was still a teenager, maybe 14, 15 years old. And Tony at one point looks at his son and says, because they're all sitting around watching TV, he says to his son, hey, it's time for you to go to bed. And his son, without actually even looking at his dad, he's still staring at the TV because he wants to watch TV. He says, hey, 5 more minutes. And the dad says, and dad kind of turns to him and gets a little bit more serious. And the dad says, no, go to bed right now. And the son could understand by the tone of his dad's voice that his dad wasn't playing. And the son, I mean, he what's the word? He kind of slouched a little bit and he was kind of pissed off. You could tell he was pissed off that, not pissed off, but sad that his dad wasn't letting him stay up and watch TV. But his son understood the directive and he understood the tone of his dad's voice. He got his ass up off that couch and he went to bed. The point being, his dad was giving his son a directive, not a suggestion. And too many of you are offering too many suggestions to your flesh rather than directives to your flesh. And when you give your flesh suggestions, then your flesh is going to choose the path of least resistance, which usually requires the least amount of effort, the most amount of delay, and usually equates to the least valuable outcome. This is the problem. This is not a solution. This is the problem. Because your chain of command is being broken. And actually, your chain of command is not being broken. The chain of command doesn't even exist because it's not respected. If you have a chain of command that nobody respects, it's not a real chain of command. Same way you have a rule that's not being enforced, it's not actually a rule. It's not a rule unless you enforce it. Does everybody understand what I'm saying here? So your chain of command should be laid out exactly as I explained when I talk about this, what I talked about in the introduction. Your mind makes a decision. Your body's only responsibility is to do exactly as it's told and do it blindly. That's what a directive means. Do what I said. I didn't ask you what you thought about it. I didn't ask you to offer me a suggestion. I'm not asking you your feedback. I said do something, do it. This is not a negotiation. I remember I had a math teacher in maybe high school or middle school. I don't remember. I just remember she was an older white lady. And anytime she would tell one of the students in class to do something, she had kids. I could tell she had kids by the way she talked to us. That's not a negative thing. But anytime she told one of the students to do something and the student pushed back or offered some, like they would say something back to the teacher that was kind of going against whatever the teacher said, the teacher would get really annoyed and she would get this really tight look on her face and she would look at the student and she would say, this is not a democracy. And that's exactly how y'all need to talk to your flesh. When your mind decides something that is happening, this is not a democracy. There's no voting process here. And if there's a voting process, there's only one vote, and that's the vote that your mind gets. Done. All right, your mind decided this is what we're doing. If you want a democracy, that's how it goes. And too many of you are running democratic processes between all the competing factions in your life, and the laziest faction is usually winning the battle. This is explaining your situation. This is not a democratic process. This is not a collaborative process. You can allow it to feel collaborative, but it really isn't. I've already told you all, there's no such thing as a group decision. I did a whole episode on this concept. There is no such thing as a group decision. That was episode number 2449. Group decision is an oxymoron. Also, I talked about absolutes. That was episode number 2349. Your mind responds to absolutes. It does not respond to maybes. You don't respond to maybes. You respond to absolutes. The body does not get a vote once the mind has decided something's going to happen. You tell your body what to do, and if necessary, you make your body do it. This is not a back and forth. It simply means you follow through and do what you said you were going to do, even if doing the thing is much more about the things that you say or type or read, rather than, for example, doing push-ups or running miles. But whatever you tell yourself to do, you do it, period. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is that your mind makes the agreement, your flesh gets no votes. Number 2. Your mind and body are not equal partners. I'll just explain this to you. There's a chain of command here. There is no group decision. This is not a group decision. Your mind is in charge, and everybody needs to understand that the mind is in charge. And if you don't agree that the mind is in charge, get out. All right, I'm in charge, and this is how it goes. Many of you are simply too nice with yourselves. That's the biggest challenge a lot of you have. A lot of you are just too nice to yourselves. Way too often, we don't do things that we want to do or that we need to do. And you know what the main reason is? A lot of people don't do shit that they say they want to do. Anybody know the answer to the question? All of you actually know the answer. You may not be thinking about it right now off the top of your head, but I'll tell you what it is in 1 second. Does anybody know the answer to the question? I'll give you a chance in your mind to think about what it might be before I say it. The answer is, a lot of times you don't do things because you don't feel like it. You don't do things because you don't feel like it. And when your flesh says, I don't feel like it, you are so nice as to appease your flesh by saying, oh, you don't feel like it? Okay, poor baby. Then I guess we just won't do anything. All right, this is bullshit. You have to stop allowing this to happen. You need to stop being so nice with yourself. Stop being so appeasing to yourself. And when you tell yourself that something's going to happen, that's it, period. Now, there is no negotiation. This is not a democratic process. This is not a collaboration. Do what I say do. That's it. And that's the mindset that you need to have if you want to get more things done. You don't do something, when you don't do something because you don't feel like it, that only happens when you're treating your body as an equal party with your internal desires and your needs. If you need to get this certain thing done and fire off that email by 5 o'clock, but your mind doesn't feel like doing it and it's 4:45, this is not a negotiation. I know you don't feel like doing it. I didn't ask you if you felt like doing it. I said do it. Again, just like Tony Soprano talking to his son. No, I didn't say 5 more minutes. I said go to bed right now. That's not a question. It's a directive. The problem with this, if you haven't already figured it out, is that you will often not feel like doing things that will move you forward, because the things that will move you forward usually require more effort than the things that will keep you in the same place. The fact that they are not those things, the things that will move you forward, the fact that you're not doing those things is the exact reason why you cannot treat your feelings as an equitable partner in negotiation, because the things that will move you forward require effort and you won't always feel like doing them. Things that will keep you the same, those don't require much effort, so you usually feel like doing those. So if you had to pick which one you're going to do, usually the one that keeps you in the same spot because you don't have to work as hard. I mean, the show is called Work on Your Game for a reason. You cannot treat your feelings as an equitable partner in negotiation. Did everybody understand that? You cannot treat your feelings as an equitable partner in negotiation. As a matter of fact, your feelings don't even get invited to the negotiation. You tell yourself what it's going to be, and that's it. While you can acknowledge the feelings and you can acknowledge that you don't feel like doing something, that is not a good enough reason to not do it. As a matter of fact, I wrote an entire fucking book explaining to you what to do when you don't feel like it and when your energy is not quite there. It's called The Third Day. If you don't have the book, go to thirddaybook.com. The book's free, just cover the shipping, and I'll show you exactly how to do it strategically, not motivationally. This is what discipline is all about, ladies and gentlemen. Conditioning yourself to do the things you know you need to do, even when you don't feel like doing them, to the point that it becomes your normal mode of operation. That's what discipline means. Should I say it again? Doing the things that you know you need to do, when they need to be done, even when you don't feel like doing them, to the point that this becomes your normal mode of operation. That is the definition of what discipline means. I can define discipline in a bunch of different ways. There's a lot of pieces to it. It's the reason why I wrote a book on the subject. But that's one of them. And it's a really good one. See, at that point, you're not willpowering yourself to get things done. That's something you can tap into every now and then. But what happens is you turn this into a system to where you do it automatically. All right, that's something you do without thinking about it. See, when you're doing something, when a business does something without thinking about it, it's called a system. When a human does something without thinking about it, it's called a habit. They're the same thing. A habit is just a personal form of a system. And a system is a entity form, non-human entity form of a habit. McDonald's has a habit of how they make their cheeseburgers, but you wouldn't call it a habit because McDonald's is not a person, so you call it a system. Now, if you had a way of making a cheeseburger, you would call it a habit because you're a human being. You could also call it a system. The difference between discipline and willpower is that willpower has to be thought about. You got to think about having willpower. Discipline, you don't have to think about it. It happens automatically when it's locked in properly. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is your mind makes the agreement, your flesh gets 0 votes. Number 3. Talk to anyone who works in the training or the coaching realm, and it doesn't matter what type of training or coaching. Physical training, mental training, any training or coaching, anything like that, business, anything else, they will all agree on the following point. Human beings can do a lot more than we generally think we can do. Anyone who's in the training or coaching space, anybody listening to this who has the title of coach or the title of trainer, it doesn't matter what type of trainer, it doesn't matter what type of coach. Sport coach, mindset coach, life coach, business coach, physical trainer, mindset trainer, sales trainer, it doesn't matter. We all agree that humans can do a lot more than we generally think we can do. Everybody agrees. The difference between what we think we can do and what we are actually capable of doing is a matter of being pushed to go further than the internal arbitrary limits that we often set upon ourselves or allow us to have set upon ourselves by our associations and external circumstances. The difference between your potential and your current situation is how much you allow yourself to be pushed further than the limits that you have arbitrarily allowed to be set in your own mind. For example, if you think you can only lift 30 pounds, therefore, the only weight you ever try to lift is 30 pounds, or you never go above 30 pounds, if you get with a personal trainer who has decided that you're going to lift 50 pounds, I guarantee you within 6 weeks, it won't even take that long, you'll be lifting 50 pounds. Now, how is that? How is that? You may surprise yourself by lifting 50 pounds. And it's not because the trainer all of a sudden installed some new ability within you that did not already exist. That's not the job of a trainer. It's not the job of a coach. The job of a trainer or a coach is to reveal to you what is already there that you weren't able to see because of the head trash and the nonsense that you have decided to codify in your own mind. That's your trainer or coach's job, is to show you that the bullshit that you've been believing up to this point is just that bullshit, and here's a better way of looking at it. That's the trainer's actual job. Now, the way it is applied may be physical, it may be tangible, it may be in the form of some charts and graphs and measurables and doing push-ups and lifting weights and this nutrition plan. But overall, the job of a trainer or a coach is to show you that you are capable of more than what you thought you were capable of, and you hire the trainer or the coach for that purpose, and is worth 100 times more than what you paid if the trainer or coach is any good, because it changes the frame of mind that you're in permanently as long as you apply what you're told, assuming that your trainer or coach is any good. Let's make that assumption. And assuming that you actually want to change. Both of those assumptions are necessary. Not because you got some new ability all of a sudden. This is not a new ability. It may feel like a new ability, but the ability was already there. You just needed somebody to show you that it was, you needed somebody to reveal it to you. That's the job of the trainer. And if you never demanded it of yourself, then getting with somebody else who can help reveal it and help you see what you otherwise couldn't see on your own is well worth it. Like, how many of you have ever been around a person coworker, a spouse, a friend, a coach, a trainer, a teacher, anywhere, that a supervisor, anywhere, who somehow, some way, through something that they did or said, or some kind of engagement you had with them, whether you just noticed them doing something or they said something directly to you, they showed you something that you were capable of, that had you not had that engagement, you wouldn't have ever known that you were capable of that thing. Any of you ever had that experience? Everybody has. This is why it's important to have relationships and know the right people. And go find the right people. When you identify someone as the right person, ask yourself, how can I get this person to stay in my world? One good way is to subscribe to their podcast. If you're not subscribed to the show, make sure you subscribe. And leave a review of the show, folks. We need some more reviews and ratings of the show on both Spotify and Apple. Humans have an internal mechanism that prevents us from harming ourselves beyond a certain point. And for some, that mechanism is turned up higher than it is for others. But everybody has it. Everybody has a threshold to which we will push ourselves through discomfort. And all of us have a red line of discomfort through which we will not push ourselves any further. And in simple terms, what that means is there's only so far that every one of us will push ourselves relative to how much someone or something else will push us. There's a book called Living with a SEAL, written by this guy named Jesse Itzler. He's a well-known entrepreneur. You may know his wife or her product very well. His wife is named Sarah Blakely. She created this product called Spanx, which I think all of you have heard of. Jesse is the husband of the woman who created Spanx. Now, Jesse wrote this book called Living with a SEAL because Jesse liked to run these ultra marathon races, like anything that's longer than the 26.2 mile marathon is considered an ultra marathon. He saw this guy, some black guy, running in one of these events, and he was so impressed by this guy that he hunted the guy down. He hired him to come to his place in Manhattan to basically help train Jesse to make him stronger and better to run his own ultra marathons. And in the process of doing this, Jesse developed himself on a personal level even further than he was trying to develop himself on a physical level, simply because being around this guy, this Navy SEAL guy, started to show him that there were mental limits Jesse had in himself that he didn't even realize he had until the SEAL showed him, without actually saying it in so many words, that he could go beyond his own limits. And that Navy SEAL, after that book came out, this Navy SEAL became a very famous guy who many of you know. His name is David Goggins. He was the Navy SEAL in this book. So read this book, Living with a SEAL. This is before anyone knew who David Goggins was. His name is not actually even mentioned in the book. He's just called SEAL. But then the book was so popular, people started to find out who the hell was this SEAL, and that's how David Goggins started to blow up. A lot of people may not know that backstory. But anyway, what happened in that book is that Jesse tells the story is that when SEAL, the Navy SEAL, first came to his condo in Manhattan, the Navy SEAL said, "Hey, do you have a gym in this building?" And Jesse said, "Yeah, it's downstairs." So they go down to the gym, and SEAL said, "Oh, let's go to the gym." This is the first night he just got there. So Jesse said, "I thought the first training was going to be, he was going to do some assessments and take some measurements, and then we'll start tomorrow morning, et cetera, et cetera." Navy SEAL said, all right, he went to the pull-up bar. He said, "How many pull-ups can you do?" And Jesse said, "I could do maybe 15. He said, "How many pull-ups can you do without stopping?" He said, "I could do maybe 15. And then SEAL said, "Okay, do 15 pull-ups." So Jesse goes and does 15 pull-ups. And I think he might have did 20. He might have pushed himself and did 20 because he was trying to impress the Navy SEAL. And after he got done doing the 20 pull-ups, the Navy SEAL said to Jesse, "Okay, we're not leaving the gym till you do 1,000. Literally 1,000. 1,000 pull-ups. Can you imagine 1,000 pull-ups in one workout? And Jesse tells the story. He said, "We stayed in that gym 4 hours, and I literally did 1,000 fucking pull-ups. And we did not leave until I did 1,000 pull-ups." And I'm telling you that to tell you this. Not to say you need to go do 1,000 pull-ups in the gym, but for some of you, maybe you do. The point is, until you push yourself to go beyond the limits you've already set in your mind, you will not realize how far you can possibly go. And that starts with the way that you think, not with what you are actually physically capable of. Because what you're physically capable of, you really don't know. You know what you told yourself, but you don't know the actual amount. That's the point. Let's recap today's class, which is your mind makes the agreement, your flesh gets 0 votes. Number 1, how many ideas, visions, and ruminations have you had in your mind about things you want to do, but you haven't done them yet? And why does this happen? This happens because we don't force ourselves to follow through on what our mind says. But if you follow top-down leadership, then that's exactly the way it's supposed to work. It's called chain of command. Point number 2, your mind and body are not equal parties in this deal. What you feel like doing or what you want to do is completely irrelevant when your mind makes a decision that something's going to happen. Remember what the word decision means. It means to cut off other possibilities. This is top-down leadership. Does anyone not understand a direct order? Point number 3, talk to anybody who works in training or coaching. And it doesn't matter what type of training or coaching, physical, mental, or anywhere in between. Every human can do a lot more than they think that they are capable of doing. The reason people go and get trainers and coaches and listen to trainers and coaches is because you know deep down that you are capable of more than what you're doing, and you're hoping someone can help reveal what that more is so you can actually fucking get around to doing it. All right, it's a good idea and a good investment to make. All that said, folks, Work on Your Game University, speaking such of investment. You want to work with me directly, have me as your direct coach. We have 2 levels in our program. We have our full coaching program. We have our circle coaching program. Get in where you fit in, and let's start finding out what you're actually capable of as opposed to what you have told yourself, the lie you told yourself, or what you are only capable of. That's all at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all